One, stop. It has to stop now. Left-wing political violence erupts this morning right here in Dallas, Texas, as gunshots ring out towards an ICE facility, killing 2 detainees. And once again, the message is inscribed on the ammo: anti-ICE. It has to stop, Democrats. It has to stop now. 2, Sheriff Chad Bianco is running for governor in California, and Assemblyman Blumencranz is a New York State representative ready to talk about Zohran Mamdani. 3, if you're taking Tylenol to spite Trump, you might just be insane. It is Will Cain country on this Wednesday, and unfortunately we start today with what is becoming all too common. Yet another example of what appears to be, in these early hours, left-wing violence. Early this morning in Dallas, Texas, a sniper placed into a position outside of an ICE detention facility on I-35, shot into a detention van. It killed 2 detainees, injured a 3rd. No ICE agents were hurt. But again, in these early hours, the evidence is pointing to yet another example of left-wing violence. The Dallas mayor, the Dallas chief of police, and the FBI took to the podium this afternoon, and here's what they had to say so far about their suspect.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
Director Kash Patel of the FBI posted onto X pictures of that ammunition. You can see inscribed with what looks like a pin on at least one of those rounds, clearly the message anti-ICE. Patel posted in a long explanation: this morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing 1, now we know that number to be 2, wounding several others before taking his own life. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with Dallas PD and state authorities. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. More updates will be forthcoming. These despicable, politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not one-off. We're only miles away from Prairieland, Texas, where just 2 months ago an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility targeting their officers. It has to end, and the FBI and our partners will lead to these investigative efforts to see to it that those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice. Thankfully, no law enforcement personnel were injured. Please pray for the injured and the deceased. Alvarado, Texas. A bomb placed at a similar or the same ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. The assassination of Charlie Kirk. 2 attempted assassinations of Donald Trump. And when do we as a nation, when do Democrats look in the mirror and say, enough is enough? Who's left? Who is sane on the left? Let's get into that with story number 1. Last night on Stephen Colbert, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, took to the hyperbole and insanity that has infected the minds of a far too many people in this country, the gullible, the manipulatable, the crazy, or those simply made crazy by the type of rhetoric we have heard from almost every Democrat, and notably, and obviously very recently, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Look, we had a 15-year-old disabled kid in Los Angeles was waiting for his sister to come out of high school, and they pulled out guns on this kid. They pulled out guns and handcuffed this young child. That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process. No oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here.
You're not only being hyperbolic, Governor, you're inspiring violence by issuing rhetorical sequel after rhetorical sequel. On the latest episode of The Handmaid's Tale, you've made far too many people in this country on the left believe that they are facing an existential threat, that they think someone is there to arrest, to kidnap, or to kill, to erase them from America. And in response, what would any rational person do if told over and over and over, they're coming to get you? They would respond with an equal perceived amount of force. And we are seeing it play out with increasing frequency. You aren't just talking to crazy people, you are creating lunatics. And they're letting us know with what they are inscribing on their ammunition. Stop. No more of this, for example, again from last night, from Gavin Newsom.
I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government.
Gavin Newsom, LaMonica McIver, Jasmine Crockett, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar. But that's only the low-hanging fruit. Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama. Every single Democratic politician has engaged in this hyperbole. It isn't partisan. It's simply observational. It's simply someone aware of their surroundings, simply someone who can watch, listen, and live in reality to see there's no one sane left on the left. Stop. Enough. In order to gain your political advantage, in order to gain votes, in order to retain power, you have made people believe that President Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. You have made people believe that your political opponents are Nazis. And you have made people act on that belief with violence. Stop. But for those of you that have already gone this far, I would say to you, my message is not enough. Stop. If your name has been called, and all too many have done this, not enough names have I called out today. Not only must you stop, you must be stopped. You are done. You have no legitimate place in a respectable conversation. You are done. You should not be platformed on a late night program. You're not worthy of a real debate. You are living in an alternate reality, or you are cynically playing into a gullible population, making them believe in your virtual reality. But look at the cost. The bodies are piling up. Look what you have created. And I say this with no hesitation. In the past, we have, and I have, been, I think, responsible and prudent and careful to not say that others can inspire crazy people to action, that the rhetoric of people thousands of miles removed don't make crazy people do crazy things. But that day is over. This has changed. You are not speaking to crazy people. You are creating crazy people. And you're done. For the rest, and I challenge you out there, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, if you're listening on Spotify, ask this with an open heart and an open mind. Name me the sane Democrat. Name me the one who hasn't gone down this hyperbolic Handmaid's Tale. They are worthy of the debate. They are welcomed into the conversation. But I'm having trouble identifying them because for the rest, you're done. Find me the sane one, and for them we will say, stop. Jimmy Kimmel's back. He didn't stop. He's back on the airwaves of ABC. And this was his message last night to America.
It was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way.
Emotion is a funny thing. To hear the emotion in Jimmy Kimmel's voice makes him somewhat sympathetic, because you all of a sudden see his humanity. And I'm going to be honest with you, I actually do believe in the humanity of Jimmy Kimmel. I actually believe that this is a man that feels things, that he mourns truly, or feels some sense of sadness for the loss of Charlie Kirk. But that emotion, no matter how authentic, and it's hard for me because the last thing I want to be on television, it's been a challenge of the last several months, from Kerrville to Utah, to restrain my emotions, I tend to assume are coming from a place of authenticity, not performance. But what do I know? I don't know Jimmy Kimmel, so I'm going to grant him what I would hope others would grant me, that that's coming some place of authenticity. But that emotion does not absolve him of the truth. It does not forgive his lies. He did, in fact, impugn at least half of America in suggesting that the murder of Charlie Kirk came from MAGA. That was his intention. I know that he's incapable or unwilling to tell the truth, because he went on then to say that the reason he was taken off the air is because of the President of the United States and his inability to take a joke.
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke.
This never was and never has been about a joke. And once again, in the spirit of honesty, when Jimmy Kimmel actually got to his joke, which was often a tag on to the clips that people were playing about what he had to say, he joked about the way that President Trump responded when someone said, "How are you doing? How are you getting along?" after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And President Trump seemingly in that clip pivoted very quickly to talking about the construction of a ballroom. Kimmel's joke was, yes, the fourth stage of grief, construction. It follows right after destruction. No one cared about that particular joke. What they cared about was his lie, that Tyler Robinson came from MAGA. He knows that, and everyone knows that. This was never about the joke. It was about the lie. A lie said at the time that was an obvious lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. But Jimmy Kimmel has become the one thing that the left was robbed of in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The highest card in the deck on the left, the ace of spades in any game, is victimhood. It's the highest card in any deck. And that's why you have the victimhood Olympics. Black, women, trans, who gets at any given time to pull or own in their hand the ace of spades. Obviously, after your political opponent is shot in the neck, no one has much sympathy or can see you as the victim, robbing the left of their favorite card, the ace of spades. But they turned Jimmy Kimmel then into their martyr for free speech. Jake Tapper, for example, said this is the biggest violation of free speech in the history of America.
All right, Jimmy Kimmel, he's a friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
You know him, I know him. We know he's a good person. Obviously, this news is very exciting. But what was your original take on how this all went down starting last week?
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
The most direct infringement on free speech in his lifetime, and he's no spring chicken. Interestingly, on that very same day, yesterday, it was revealed that the Biden administration pushed Google to take down pages, YouTube pages, Google pages of anyone who spread information they did not like about COVID that very same day. That story can land a bit with a thud because you, of course, know that to be true already. It feels like a story that we've been telling for years. But this isn't a massive admission from Google. Under pressure from the Biden administration, they took down private accounts that, interestingly and importantly here, did not violate policy from YouTube or Google. That is a much bigger act of government censorship than anything in and around the story of Jimmy Kimmel. You see, at the very minimum, Jimmy Kimmel is on ABC. ABC is a network owned by Disney. ABC is on public airwaves, one of only 4 channels on public airwaves, a limited minority granted by the government to license those public airwaves. That license comes with the ability to be regulated, the necessity to be regulated by the FCC, giving the government the ability to ask, am I enforcing congressional doctrine when I grant these airwaves and say, is what you're doing serving the public interest? I think there's a very legitimate regulatory question about whether or not CBS, NBC, ABC are serving the public interest under their licensee grant from the FCC. No such calculation or governmental authority rests with information published on the internet, with Google or YouTube. The federal government has no oversight in service of the public interest or any other outside of congressionally written laws about incitement to violence or terrorism to regulate speech on the internet. So the government under Joe Biden's administration steps outside of any congressionally regulated authority, tells a private company, take down this stuff. Because what we were told in the beginning was when it came to the Twitter files, all the government was doing was asking Twitter to enforce its own policies. We know now by the submission of Google, these pages weren't even in violation of their private company policies. And the government said, the Biden administration said, take down this speech. One day, Tapper, forget your 60 years of existence, one day I could give you worse infringement on free speech than what happened in the story of Jimmy Kimmel. But he's back. For now. Yesterday I set the over-under at 6 months. Within 6 months, we will hear about the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel Live from Disney. Did you know that women are taking Tylenol as an act of defiance to Donald Trump? Because he said Tylenol could be correlated to rising rates of autism. They are going to, with their pregnant bellies, film themselves on TikTok taking Tylenol. Hey, if Donald Trump said it was unhealthy to drink your own piss, would they drink piss? That and more coming up on Will Cain Country. United Nations, the escalator stops working right when the First Lady and President Trump step on to what I think is supposed to be one of the most dangerous pieces of machinery we've actually invented as a modern man, the escalator. That and the teleprompter fails while young women with pregnant bellies take to taking Tylenol in defiance of President Trump. All that's coming up in Final Takes a little bit later here on Will Cain Country, which we love you hanging out, so make sure you jump into the comments section. Make you a member of the Willisha at YouTube, where you hit bookmark, subscribe, like, or follow on Spotify and Apple. I've spoke today about the disgrace that is California Governor Gavin Newsom. Well, many people talk about his race for the presidency. It's quite obvious, race for the presidency in 2028. But he also has to remain governor of California, and he has an opponent. It is Sheriff Chad Bianco, and we welcome him in now to Will Cain Country. Sheriff, great to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you right here in the great state of Texas. No insult to your state of California, but glad to have you in person here in Texas.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
So why are you running for governor?
It should be obvious to everyone in California. We're broken, absolutely broken, and we're broken not because of businesses, not because of politics, or not because of people, not because of consumers, not because of the wonderful environment that we have there. We're broken because of a failed government that's failed over decades. And we are living that now with the worst. Everything we're supposed to be the best at in California, we're the worst. And if we're supposed to be the worst at something, we are the absolute best. And it is directly related to failed Democrat policies, failed Democrat agenda. And to be quite honestly, they Californians are tired of it. Californians are looking for something different, and they're tired of politics in general. They're tired of our politicians being lied to. They're looking for someone to that they can trust, that they can respect, and that they know is going to tell them the truth and care about Californians instead of an actual political identity that cares about special interests.
If Californians care, why do they keep electing people like Kamala Harris as senator? Why do they keep electing people like Gavin Newsom as governor?
That's a fantastic question, and I think it's multiple faceted. It's a little bit of apathy, but it's a little bit of, over the decades, we have very much pushed party identity and party above everything. So, and I say this all the time, in California, up until I believe this next election, if Charlie Manson ran for governor as a Democrat, Democrats would vote for him because he had a D after his name. They don't care about anything. It's about celebrity status. It's what you look like. It's, oh, you know, say cute things or whatever it is, or you send me nice flyers in the mail. And they don't look into the integrity, the character, the honesty, those types of things, the leadership ability. And I think that's ending. I think that lasted for a long time. It was beat into people that you have to vote Democrat, Republicans are evil. And the reality of California is there hasn't been Republican involvement in our government for 50 years. And you can't blame anything upon us on a conservative Republican. Everything is about failed Democrat policies. And the regular Californians are now moving away, whether you're Democrat or whether you mentioned it earlier in the monologue, and what you were talking about is there are, I call them regular Democrats. But what you were saying is it's sane. We have to get to sanity again. And I think that the sanity of Californians is realizing that California has to play a little bit more significant role over politics. And I believe, you know, me traveling the state and doing this campaign, we're learning that that's what's happening. Democrats are coming to my camp saying, I don't believe in everything that you believe in. I'm not going to change and be a Republican, but I know you need to win. We need something different, and we're behind you all the way.
What do you think of Gavin Newsom?
I think if I have to give him any credit at all, he is a phenomenal politician. He is 100% dishonest. There's nothing he says that is true. He spins everything for his own benefit or his party benefit. Even when you really talk about statistics, he'll spin them to make them look different in context. And he honestly, he's a master of it. I watched him in these podcasts with Charlie Kirk and with these other prominent people that fell into that hypnotism that he has, that he controls the conversation. Doesn't matter the question you ask him, he's going to answer what he wants, and he's a master at it. And it's unfortunate for our state because he's been in politics for more than 25 years, and we're suffering the consequences of that. But it's that ability to make himself attractive to voters that they keep putting him in there regardless of the policies that are harming us.
You got some of your family and your team here with us today in Texas. When you go home at night and you talk to your family or your team and you acknowledge what you just acknowledged to me, that you're dealing with and going up against a phenomenal politician, which I agree with. He is a very, very talented liar. And by that, you mean the ability to spin it off and play it as though it is the truth.
Right.
How do you debate? How do you combat? How do you win against that level of politician?
Yeah, I think that's the big fear that they have of me being in this race, and we're finding already that they're attacking me early. It's early in this race, primary next June, and they're afraid of me being in it because I mean, I'm not saying cops are better than anyone else, and I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone else, but I have 32 years in this, and I became very, very good and well known in my industry as an interviewer, as an interrogator, and as someone that's able to get someone to confess, basically, to relate and to carry that conversation. And that's what they're afraid of. I refuse to allow them to blame anything in California on President Trump or on the federal government, because nothing in California has anything to do. The failures of California, the highest cost of living, the highest poverty rate, the highest taxes, the highest gas tax, the highest home prices, all of these bad things, the most regulation, have nothing to do with Trump being president. Absolutely nothing. But that's all they want to talk about because California right now is indefensible. And I truly, honestly believe that that's why Kamala Harris didn't run. She wants to run for president again, and she knows that California is indefensible. The politics of California have no defense. They can't talk about any success that they have. And so for me being in this race, that is 100% what I'm about, is honesty, transparency, integrity. And you may not like what I say, but you're going to get the truth. And the truth is never going to change. And for all of my supporters, for my department, I have a very large department, that's what we're all hoping, is that everyone else is able to see that. And that's going to be our mission in this campaign, is to show the rest of the state that there is hope. We don't have to go to 13% of the population has trust in politicians. I mean, that's sad. And I think that looking at a law enforcement professional, particularly a sheriff of a very large county, that's appealing to people that they are going to get the truth and they will have some of that trust.
Well, your campaign won't just be a test for your state. I do believe it will be a test for the nation, because you will have these two truths side by side. You will be dealing with a talented politician that is very, very adept at lying. It may be such that he is so adept it can become a negative. I have wondered if he carries too much of a used car salesmanship slime to him, in that he's almost too smooth, too slick, too polished, too much of an answer to every single question. But I think he's even seen that own vulnerability. This is how talented he is as a politician. He's seen that vulnerability, and that's why he's subjected himself to people like Charlie Kirk or Sean Ryan. But that truth will be put side by side with the truth of California.
Yeah.
It is an indefensible state. There's really only one stat. We could talk about the economy, we could talk about the fires, we could talk about the budget, but the true stat, the only stat that really matters when it comes to California, is the number of people leaving California. Voting with your feet is the ultimate act of rejection. But I still believe he will be the Democratic nominee for president of the United States. So your campaign won't just be a test for California, it'll be a test for America on which one of those truths do you buy into, the truth of California or the truth spun by Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We all know that he is transitioned. He left California really about a year and a half ago in his attempt to, the last election, get on that ticket as a vice president candidate. And we know now that certainly he is trying for that presidential candidate. But I will give the rest of the country hope that there are a lot of sheriffs in California that know that public safety has been completely destroyed by Newsom and his agenda, and our mission is to make sure that the rest of the country knows exactly who he is, and we will never allow him to do to the country what he's done to California.
Speaking of law enforcement, the news this morning is that an ICE facility right here in Dallas, Texas, where you and I sit today, was the target of what appears to be anti-ICE assassination attempts or violence, murder. I guess against what the shooter may have hoped, he ended up killing 2 illegal immigrants instead of ICE officers. It's unfortunately not a one-off. It's not an isolated incident. It's part of a higher trend that we've seen, an increasing trend over years, and certainly accelerating over the past couple of weeks. What do you think about the news coming out of Texas?
Yeah, I don't want to correct you. I want to adjust the way you say it. I don't believe it's a trend. This is by design. This is political design to create hate, discontent, and deception again, and divide the country. This is the lies that have been going on for years, particularly about President Trump, the Hitler, all of the part where he wants to be the king of the USA, and all of this stuff about big government, and it's everything that the Republican Party is against. We certainly are not fascist. The new definition that they've come up with, fascist, that's to serve their political needs, and it is not the truth. It's a lie to divide people, and it's to convince people of something that's not real. And what is happening now with these absolute lunatics that are doing this, not only in Utah, but now here, the other ICE facilities that have been attacked, the other law enforcement officers that have been attacked, this is by design, from the rhetoric of the hate, the call to action, the call to rise up, the fight, and all of this stuff about calling those lunatics to do something like this. And what they've been doing by calling us fascist, calling us anti-American, the whole threat to democracy, they don't even know what democracy is, but it dehumanizes you. So if we're fighting fascism and the destruction of America, they're implying that violence is okay, because this is the only thing left. It's a war. They're even calling it a war. Some of these politicians are saying we are at war, and they are purposely causing this to happen for two reasons. Number one, it rallies around their base. It's a unified front and a unified fight against a common enemy. But then also the acts of violence. They know that it's going to be a shooter that does these things. They know someone's going to be murdered by a gun, and now they get to call for the Second Amendment issues, and they get to call gun violence when it really isn't that. It's lunatic. It's people violence. And it's violence that they are causing and that they are promoting and that they truly are encouraging. And for any politician, Republican or Democrat, any person that has been elected by the people, if you are not using your platform every single day to denounce violence, denounce political violence, put an end to these people, convince these people, tell these people that we cannot resort to violence for any type of political end. If you are not doing that, you are part of the problem. You're admitting that you're part of the problem, and we're just showing that we're leading into a third world country.
But if it's by design, as you suggest, then I would think you don't think it's going to stop. In fact, what we saw with Charlie Kirk, or what we saw this morning at an ICE facility, well, it's just the beginning.
I will tell you what I believe when, in the words we used, you used sane and I used normal. The left has been taken over by, we have to start being honest. And even in the media has to start calling it what it is. They're not even hiding it anymore. They are socialists. They do not believe in a free America. They are socialist Democrats. They admit that socialism is their agenda, their end game. And we have to start admitting that. That's not the normal, sane Democrat. That is the far left that is taking control of their party, and that's what's happened in California. There are a lot of Democrats that in California government that I would say are normal, that they are sane, but they are completely afraid. They are completely incapable of taking a leadership role, of standing up and saying, this is wrong, I don't believe it. And we need to get to that point where they have the guts and the courage to stand up and represent the people that elected them to that position, instead of a leadership part of the party that's controlling the money and controlling the elections.
Well, that's why I ask, and I ask it with a sincere, open curiosity. And anyone listening to this program or watching today, I am open to your suggestion. Who is left? Who is the sane Democrat? Because the type of rhetoric that I do believe now, and I will not be cautious, I do believe this rhetoric has led directly to acts of violence. I'm having trouble finding a Democrat that hasn't bitten that poison apple, who hasn't gone that far of calling Donald Trump an authoritarian, of calling their political opponents fascist. I can't find that person. But if that person can be identified, man, do they have to step up. And man, can they maybe, if you're right, and I'm not sure you are right, but if you are right, claim the center of their party, claim, again, and you're telling perhaps, the majority of that party.
So where I am and the dealings that I have with California politicians is I do have to trust them. You have to trust until until you get burned, and then it's hard to get that trust back. But I do believe that they are good people. They may not be. And they may be lying straight to my face. What I tell them and what I feel is they just don't have the courage or the strength to do the right thing. And that's not leadership ability. We're not electing leaders. We're just electing people and putting them in office. And we have to start looking to that leadership ability to stand up and do the right thing for other people. That's the number one role of a leader. So I think you're absolutely right. And I could be completely wrong in that they are just lying to me so I don't turn against them and expose them. And they're just letting the loud leadership, the loud people of the party, do the talking for them. And I'm hoping I'm wrong. And I'm hoping that especially because of this happening so fast and back-to-back incidents, that we are going to get someone from the left stand up and say, stop this. Knock it off. It's wrong. We cannot have violence against another political party
and not
for
just
your
that,
ideals.
But to stop calling their opponents these hyperbolic terms
Yes.
that are making people out there believe that the people that disagree with them are a real threat to their life.
Right.
And as I'm listening to you talk, the one name that I can come up with who might be that person is Senator John Fetterman. He does seem to have an independent and strong-willed streak that hasn't given in to the popular narrative of everybody who disagrees with me.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And so we all have to realize, and we know it, but I am not a racist. I am not a fascist. I am not homophobic. I am not transphobic. I am not an extreme anti-government, the MAGA, all of these things that they want to call me to make it so no one looks at me as a person. They're looking at me as some type of existential threat to their existence or whatever the case may be. And that rhetoric that we are hearing constantly from the left is what's driving this craziness, the insanity that we're seeing in our country. And you are absolutely right, that has to stop. And any of these people, especially government officials, who continue with the fascism, with the Hitler, with the whatever it is they're going to refer to as President Trump, other than Mr. President. I mean, how about we just go back to the greatest country in the history of the world and work to make ourselves better instead of destroy ourselves from internally?
Well, I got bad news for you, Sheriff. They judged you the minute you walked through the door. With that mustache, which I do think qualifies as a handlebar, with that lightly starched or perhaps simply pressed white pearl snap shirt and that belt buckle and those boots, which you've got nailed. And, you know, why do I think I have authority to say it just because I'm from Texas? But you've got the look nailed. But that made you all those things, those isms. Just so you know, when you walked through the door, they were done. They didn't need to hear what you said. They decided that you were a fascist.
You're absolutely, you're right in that. And it's funny because the world that I live in, the law enforcement world, when you look at the left, and the left, especially in California, is completely, they have a love affair with criminals and they are completely anti-law enforcement. And because of that, it's just that anti-law enforcement part that makes me all of those things.
Totally.
Because
Yes.
because I don't give in to what they believe, so they try and paint me as all of these other things to convince everybody else that I'm not compassionate about victims, that I'm not compassionate about what's going on in our community. And it's take the humanism out of it and just make me an object that's easily hateable.
I think it was Ronald Reagan's communication advisor, and I've always repeated this because I found it so fascinating, said it's 80% how you look, 15% how you sound, it's only 5% what you say. I'm here to tell you, you got 95% of it down right when you walk in and said hello. So you could get elected governor in Texas. I will be watching about the state of California.
We're going to do it in California. Californians are telling me they're tired of the direction we're going. They want, and that's another thing, that it's normal. I mean, what people don't realize about California is probably a good 80%, 90% of the state is very rural, farming, mountains, loggings, and, you know, those types of things that are really gone now that they're pushing away. The big city, the Los Angeles, the San Diego, the San Francisco, those big cities, that may be the big population of the state, but that's not the majority of California. And I think what's resonating with me and my campaign is people are saying, look, you know, you come in and you just talk to us. You sound like my neighbor, not, you know, a politician running for office. You're just a regular guy. And I think that's what we've been missing so much out of politics, is someone that actually cares about somebody else. So with me, 32 years of being a cop, of serving other people, and it's just a way of life for me now. It's do what I can to help other people out, and it's no longer about an identity or an agenda. I don't have an agenda other than I want to keep people safe. I want to make people's lives easier, and that's what's resonating, getting away from the party identity.
All right, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, he's running for governor in the state of California against Gavin Newsom. We appreciate you being with us here today in Texas.
Very good.
All right, good to meet you, Sheriff. All right, coming up, Assemblyman Jake Blumencranz has some things to say about the socialist running for mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Plus, we get to final takes that includes women taking Tylenol to give the middle finger to Donald Trump. That's coming up on Will Cain Country. How is it the escalator stopped working right when President Trump steps in to the UN? And then the teleprompter stops working. That and Tylenol coming up in today's final takes. But it is Will Cain Country at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel. Many of you are watching. Thousands of you are watching. We encourage you to go ahead and subscribe, bookmark, and like it. Then when you drop into the comments section, we bring you onto the show, and then we crown you a member of the Willisha. So hang around. We want to include you coming up here in Final Takes. We also want to include now Assemblyman Jake Blumencranz of New York. He's a New York State Assemblyman from the District 15, and he has served and worked alongside, as I understand it, Assemblyman, for quite some time, Zohran Mamdani, the real Zohran Mamdani.
The real Zohran, yes. Will, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I am curious. Like you were there in the New York State Assembly with him. He's running for mayor of New York, and there's a lot to talk about on that front, which we will. But what was he like? Who is the real Zoran Mamdani?
So Zoran, like any other legislator, he was looking to get things done for his people from what I call the Socialist Republic of Astoria, for those who know New York. But it's telling, his policies that he introduced, the way he went about his advocacy, and the way that he tried to get across his message in the assembly. He was always very combative towards the status quo there. He was always very combative, of course, against the Republicans in the assembly, but also his own party members. And he always beat to a drum, a DSA drum that continuously moved to the left. And he was always kind of the leader and the pallbearer with that.
And did he always do that? Like, this isn't a costume he's putting on for the city of New York. He was always a DSA guy. That's Democratic Socialist of America. He was always pushing socialist principles at the state level of New York.
He has always been a member of the furthest and most radical portions and factions of the Democratic Party, and he has always meant what he said and says what he means, which is why when we see the rhetoric, we see the walk back, we see the status quo Democrats coming to terms with the Zoran, people like Kathy Hochul endorsing him and saying, I'll be endorsing him for mayor in our party, and the messages that he's delivering is so intangible to me, because he stands against them and against us and against everything that we hold as Americans who believe in free markets and capitalism and fighting against anti-Semitism, all the things that I hold true, and I think many do too.
And to that point, really the costume he's putting on now is the slight pivot to the center. It's what I'm hearing from you as well. Recognizing he needs these endorsements, recognizing maybe he can't be the same guy when he's only trying to represent Astoria, but he's trying to represent New York at large. Here is some examples of what I'm talking about. First, this is Zoran Mamdani's pulled out of a debate in ABC Town Hall after the Kimmel suspension, so he's doing it as an act of protest. But now that Jimmy Kimmel's back, it looks like he has agreed to ABC Town Hall after Kimmel has been brought in to that debate. And then interestingly, on the issue front, which Politico writes that Zoran Mamdani maintains a muddled view on sex work. The New York City mayoral frontrunner declined to provide Politico with a clear picture of how he would handle the issue if elected to City Hall. This is about prostitution. Is he pro-prostitution, which I think has really upset some Muslims, and he is a Muslim? Or is he like super socialist, super lib, and like he's ready to legalize prostitution?
You were talking earlier about is this an act, is it not? I think he is wearing a lot of hats and he's putting on a lot of masks as he speaks to communities. He speaks to religious and Muslim communities, and he echoes his very anti-Semitic, very bombastic message against Israel and a lot of what he stands for and his roots. But then he'll immediately go to a DSA Marxist rally with a bunch of people who want to see a socialist republic in New York and talk about how everything will be free, that we are going to raise all the debt, that we are going to give buses away and transport away for free. And
everything will be free except for sex. So you get free buses, but you pay for sex.
But you pay for sex. And that's the thing, is he is looking to speak to two different groups who are completely divergent with each other. And yet neither of them are willing to see the other side of the coin when it comes to the way his rhetoric works.
Yeah. Do you think he has a real shot? I mean, every polling suggests the answer is yes, he does. But everybody in the nation just keeps waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like, come on. Sooner or later, New York will kind of wake up. No way. Not this guy. Not this far left.
I think it's important to understand New York's political environment. So many times we think of America, we think left and right. When you're in New York City, there is no left and right. There's left and further left. So I think this is an indictment on the fact that Democrats have been so apathetic to the issues they have created over the course of the past few years in New York. They just haven't been paying attention to voters. They don't care. It's run by a party boss system with only a few people making a selection of who the candidates are in a primary. That's where the DSA started to rise. People like Zoran and their message started to resonate because they want to burn down a system they feel like they can't be a part of anymore. And you're seeing that from all swaths of life and in a way that we've never seen before. And I think it's a real red flag for anyone in politics to listen to your voters, to listen to the people, and to actually take seriously candidates who are on the rise, even in the fringes.
I'm just glancing at the television while I talk to you. Assemblyman. I'm just trying to see what they're talking about on different television sets. And the reason why I'm looking at that is because I'm pretty hot today. I'm pretty hot about this attempted assassination on ICE officers. That's what the early evidence suggests, anti-ICE rhetoric on bullets out of Dallas, Texas. And I'm hot on it because, I mean, how can you not be? We're watching acts of political violence take place now on a biweekly basis in America, okay? And it's not a bipartisan issue. It's not a both sides issue right now. It is a problem on the left. And I think it's inescapable at this point how the rhetorical climate created by really almost every politician on the left has led to this. And I can't bang this drum loud enough. Honestly, I'm done. Like, I think these people need to be drummed out of office, drummed out of polite conversation, drummed out of the debate, okay? And I have to think that Zohran Mamdani is part of that. Like, I don't have it in front of me, but my suspicion is, you know, he's called Donald Trump a Nazi or an authoritarian or a fascist. That's odds are. See, that's the odds almost every Democrat has. And so if you have, you've got to stop. And I'm just wondering when the day is that even somebody on the left, maybe not the far left, as you described New York as drawn into two camps, but the people on the left to go, okay, guys, we've got to reel this in. It's getting bad.
And I think that's an important message for both sides, Will. We have to get to a place where we can offer a message to those on the left and say, come to our camp. We have answers. We have solutions. We're not the party of no. I think what New York has constantly wanted was a form of progress from our politicians, a way to make life better for people who are here. But Zoran's message is inherently regressive. I think the message surrounding political violence and making sure everyone who you don't agree with is a Nazi, the world of social media and the death spirals on one side or the other when it comes to the way we receive information is something that states can try and tackle. And I think we as Republicans need to be that big tent that the Democrats are continuously making smaller and smaller on their side of the aisle. And people like Zoran are a part of the problem when it comes to raising up that temperature.
I just have to, but I'm going to ask you again, like you're a Republican, but you're in New York. Like it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter what Republicans think right now on this issue. It just doesn't matter. It only matters to the question of whether or not the left will self-police. There has to be a self-correcting mechanism. There simply has to be. And I just have to think one of these days there has to be a wake-up call on that side. And maybe a market opening. I hate to speak about it. I hate to speak about a moral issue or a political issue in terms of markets, but let's be honest, that's the way it works often. A market opening for a Democrat like, say, John Fetterman, or he's the only name I've been able to come up with today, to go, you know what? These dudes like Mamdani, these dudes like Newsom, they don't represent the vast majority of the left. If that guy doesn't stand up, Assemblyman, then I have to start believing that those people do represent the majority of the left.
I think so. I think if you start to see people like Zoran and AOC rise, and you start to see issues that we've seen around people like John Fetterman, I think you're seeing in Texas, you're seeing a productive conversation happening amongst the left, really taking into consideration the world around us, the fact that there are people who are good and want to do good and want to be a part of a good political conversation. We need to be all around focused on making sure we're answering the message that people want to hear and not looking for the burn it down candidate, not looking for the burn it down message, which is unfortunately where our political world has gotten into these things.
All right, Assemblyman Jake Blumencranz of New York State. We appreciate having you here today on Will Cain Country.
Will, once again, thank you so much for having me.
All right, you bet. All right, it's time now for Final Takes. Let's bring in two-a-days Dan, tinfoil Pat, and as always, Ed can join us in the conversation as well. We got to get a nickname for Ed. There's an unofficial nickname for Ed that he does not appreciate and he does not like. It's Dumbo Ed, but I think we can do a lot better. We can do better than Dumbo Ed.
Dumbo Brooklyn?
No, he you know, Ed is a professional photog.
Oh.
You know, that's what photographers do when they get professional. They call themselves photogs. And every time Ellie or anybody here on Will Kane Country asks him to take a picture, he holds the phone sideways. And everybody's like, no, man, you have to do it vertical. That's what we do now. And he's like, I'm a professional photog. So he did a whole video that somebody asked him to do, but he did it sideways. And I'm like, Dumbo Ed did it sideways. We got to now redo it vertical.
That's so pejorative.
So since that day, he's been Dumbo Ed. Yeah, I know.
I thought he just had big ears.
We could call him no, he doesn't have big ears, but we could call him
Not
Ed.
Fireman Ed.
I don't know.
That's taken.
Hey, Ed, I got some friends. I'm a very diverse guy, as everybody knows. Oh, yeah, I'm very diverse. And so around some of my friends, an El Salvadorian friend was telling me that if I say, "Que onda, güey," that is a little offensive. And he's like, it's a thing that Mexicans say, "Que onda, güey." And he's like, we don't say that in El Salvador. And I find it a little offensive. I'm like, well, why do you find it offensive? And he's like, because güey is like an animal. And so I Google looked it up, and güey is not an animal. It's just basically like dude. So if I say "Que onda, güey," it's like, what's up, dude? But he said that's a pretty Mexican thing to say. Is that right? 100% That's a Mexican thing? Not El Salvadorian. Okay. So that's basically dude in Mexican. Got it. So tinfoil Pat, 2 days down, okay, on the way. Let's do a little episode of Final Takes. We got a little intro song from the future for that. We got to get a sounder for that, 2 days.
Yeah,
Final
like
takes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
We can just do it with our mouths like that every time. Let's try it. Okay, you do it. 2 days. Now it's time for an episode of Final Takes.
Final Takes.
Love it. I think just record that and run it every time. All right. Ladies, don't do this. Roll it, 2 days. This is video of women taking Tylenol, showing their pregnant bellies in defiance of Donald Trump. The videos are all over the place on TikTok. They're now being reposted onto X and to Instagram, and they're dancing to songs like Alanis Morissette with their bellies hanging out, popping Tylenol like they're Tic Tacs.
Smart.
Why? Because Donald Trump said that Tylenol could be correlated to increasing rates of autism in children. And because you can't listen to Donald Trump, they now have to post themselves taking Tylenol in defiance of Donald Trump. I had to inform them, but it's not just Donald Trump. In 2017, Tylenol posted on X, "We actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today." Again, in 2019, they warned women against taking Tylenol during pregnancy. The left has spent the last couple of days acting like quack doctors Donald Trump and RFK Jr. say don't take Tylenol. In fact, as the story goes, you should take Tylenol. It's good for reducing fever. What they neglect to inform you is that there's a Harvard study, there's also a Johns Hopkins study, but a Harvard study cited there by RFK that said there is a correlation, there is a concern that high rates of acetaminophen could have links to autism. But because Donald Trump in your mind told you to drink bleach during COVID or inject it into your veins, now you believe he's telling you to do something completely unhealthy. By the way, he did not tell you to drink Clorox. And he's right about Tylenol. I don't mean Tylenol causes autism, but you should reduce things that even the maker on the back of its label or puts out on X says, maybe don't do this during pregnancy. If, ladies, you're doing that today, you are insane. You have lost your mind. Your hatred of Donald Trump has trumped your love of your soon-to-be child. You have lost yourself. You are gone. And it does make me wonder, what could Donald Trump do in terms of reverse psychology? I made a joke earlier. He said if Donald Trump said don't drink your own urine, you'd see videos of lefties drinking their own urine across social media. But let's really think about this, guys. This could be useful. If you have an animal that is only reactive and only rebellious, you have a predictable animal, you know? You can make that animal do things. So I'm just curious, like, what should we use reverse psychology on? How about, like, I don't even want to joke around about political violence, but how do we get them to stop committing political violence? Do we suggest that they should, and then they'll stop? They'll literally do anything that Donald Trump says the opposite of.
Yeah, I heard.
So what can we have them do?
I heard Canada's terrible. Definitely don't move there. That's a horrible idea to go to Canada.
I was literally thinking that he should encourage political violence, and then it'll just stop altogether.
Patrick,
the right
stop.
won't do it.
No.
Okay. But that's what I was going to say, but I'm not going to say it because it's not the right thing to say.
Yeah, you even heard me say I don't. Yeah, right.
It's wrong.
Be careful here.
Yeah.
Even though we're trying to effectuate a good
We
outcome,
don't condone violence
you can't even
here.
say it. But Donald Trump should say, if you hate America, you should definitely stay in America. You should not move to Canada. He should say that.
Yeah.
If you love DEI, don't move to Canada. If you love revisiting everything about American history through the lens of Howard Zinn and want to make America experiment fail in Rise of the French Revolution or the Democratic Socialist Republic of, are they going to call it America? I don't know what they'll call it. You should definitely not move to Canada. And then they all will. And they'll all be Canadians. It'll be great.
Eh?
Ed said, not Mexico.
Well, they're going the other way. The other way. Sorry. I mean, it's just, you know.
No, Mexicans are angry, right? Isn't there a whole segment of Americans moving there and ruining their food scene?
Americans are moving to Mexico?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Do you not read the notes?
Every Mexican knows it, and every reader, and
Shut up,
every reader of the New York Times. They did this story in the New York Times. Huh?
Despacito?
He's trying to say San Miguel Allende. He's saying it with a big Mexican accent, but which he doesn't speak.
He put it on
a normal
heavy.
Basis. I really hate it when they
He
do
put it
that,
on heavy.
where you don't speak with an accent until you come across a Spanish word. Come over here, Ed.
Ecuador.
I'm tired of you yelling in the background where nobody can hear you. Here, I'm going to ask you a series of words. Come here, Ed. Come here, Ed.
Bring the guest mic.
He's not supposed to be on TV. Right. Well, I don't. You could bring. He's the one that sets it all up, so you could put the guest mic in. But we can just do this. There's a street in Austin, Texas. Okay. There's also a river.
Yeah.
Okay. Starts with a G.
With a G. Okay.
Can you pronounce that river? When you said that.
Oh, the Guadalupe.
The Guadalupe.
Yeah, the Guadalupe.
And don't do that, Ed.
Why? That's how it is. It's the Guadalupe.
There's a street. There's a city outside of Austin. It's Spanish for the word white. I'm not being. I'm not being racist. I'm not being racist.
The Blanco River.
Yeah. What?
Blanco.
Oh, you said it
River.
correct.
Yeah, the Blanco.
Yeah,
River.
you said it like a Texan.
Because that's what it's called. The Blanco. Blanco is Blanco.
They say Blanco.
Yeah.
Blanco.
Blanco.
Not
But
Blanco.
It's Blanco, the city.
Well, that's a Texan.
Yeah.
Blanco.
Yeah. What about the city that's a little west of that? It's spelled Llano.
Oh, Lano?
Yeah, there you go. See, he knows how to do it. But every once in a while, he wants to just remind you. So he says something like Guadalupe or San Miguel Allende. Yes, Dan. Americans have moved to Mexico. Some to San Miguel Allende. Also, I've heard Guadalajara, I believe, or a small town in the mountains there. Maybe that's San Miguel Allende. And then Mexico City. And people are upset because they're ruining the food scene. You know, they're bringing in burgers and they want, pizza.
Sour cream on everything.
Oh, some sour cream on your enchiladas.
Cheese on tacos.
Cheese on tacos, he said. And they're upset in Mexico nowadays. They're upset that, all these Americans are moving to Mexico and not acculturating. Isn't that interesting?
Fascinating.
Isn't that interesting?
What if we start protesting
They're
down
not
there?
taking the time to learn the language. They're not taking the time to learn the language. They're not assimilating into Mexico. They're changing the food scene. Isn't that interesting?
But they should go to Canada. It's nicer.
Canada's
Isn't it
cold.
interesting
Canada's cold.
that it's racist to acknowledge you have an existing culture that might want to be preserved in one direction, but in the other direction, quit cheesing up my tacos.
But Will, they say we have no culture. You know?
You don't put cheese on your tacos? No, bro. What's wrong with you? Cheese is good, period. No, it is. Put cheese on everything. including on tacos.
But you make a quesadilla and add meat. You don't put shredded cheese.
We got to get you a microphone if we continue this ongoing conversation.
Yeah, we can't hear a word he's saying.
We can't have you screaming in the background.
The only thing we haven't put cheese on as Americans is like what, Chinese food?
Oh, you don't put cheese on Chinese food? Wow.
That's a really good, interesting point, Patrick. Is that the only Americanified cuisine that doesn't have cheese? I can't think of a single Chinese dish that has cheese.
Japanese.
What happened over there in Asia? Like not on Thai food. Now you can get some cream-based sauces, right? So you get I really like the one with the peanuts and the chicken, and sometimes they put avocado. It's a Thai dish.
They have the best cows in Japan and China,
I don't remember. Yeah, they've got cows over there. They just don't like milking them.
Wagyu steak.
Like, what's up with
They'd rather
the cheese?
They'd rather massage them.
They give them good lives.
No cheese on sushi? What is up? Is anybody Asian in the audience? Can you inform us why cheese is not part of at least...
California roll has cream cheese.
Oh.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
All my staff is yelling. All my staff is yelling. Now Ellie's chimed in. The Philadelphia roll has cream cheese.
The
Do you think they
Philadelphia
eat the
roll?
Philadelphia roll in Tokyo?
Do you know why it's called the Philadelphia
Do you think
roll? Philadelphia cream cheese.
Right. What kind of look would I get in Osaka if I said, I'll take a Philadelphia roll, please?
What's the point?
I'm just guessing. They don't have Philadelphia cream cheese on
We did
stock.
incorporate some dairy into the sushi. So
The California roll and Philadelphia roll. Please.
Well, I think that's really interesting, Patrick. But Chinese dishes don't have cheese. And I think that is worthy of a much deeper conversation. And I don't even know how we got here or where we started. Did we start with pregnant women taking Tylenol? And somehow we're talking about Chinese food having no cheese?
Yep.
I don't know how to get us back home from where we are right now. We're lost in the woods, bumping into trees. I've lost my map. And I don't know how to get out. All I know is I'm going to hit the eject button and move on to the final story in Final Takes. And that is President Donald Trump at the UN, where upon entering the building, the elevator immediately stopped working. Two-a-Days Dan has some footage, and you can see that it is literally as I describe. The First Lady, Melania Trump, and President Donald Trump step onto the elevator, and within the first two revolutions, it moves like about 2 feet, it stops. And then they begin to walk up the escalator, which, by the way, I think it should be pointed out, President Trump is 78 years old. I think it's a big escalator, big set of stairs.
Escalators become
that's
stairs.
a big ask of any 78-year-old. Yeah, that's right. That's true. There are a lot of people that point out that this is dangerous. There was a post, by the way, from some people that worked at the UN in the days leading up to the assembly that said, maybe we should just stop the escalators. Did you guys see this post? Maybe we should stop the escalators and tell President Trump we ran out of money. So there are some real questions about whether or not this was premeditated and done. Now, I'm not going to be hyperbolic like some and say it was incredibly dangerous. It was more of a stunt, an inappropriate stunt, and they probably should be fired from the UN. But do you guys know, like, Two-a-Days, look this up. AI can help you. I do think escalators are supposed to be some of the most dangerous, contraptions. Is that the best word for it? That there is. Like, more than elevators, obviously. More than, like, escalators are super dangerous. And what's funny about that is everybody gets in an elevator and you kind of go, this feels a little weird. Could the cable snap? I'm a little nervous. I say everybody registers a tiny bit of nervousness every time they hop into an elevator. But not on an escalator. You're like, you want to do tricks and you want to ride and you think it's fun. But, man, you will see stories all too often about somebody getting a limb sucked down into an escalator. What do you got, Two-a-Days?
So it's saying that elevator injuries are more prevalent. But a U.S. hospital survey estimated 10,000 escalator-related injuries per year are treated in emergency rooms.
Well, but they're often gruesome, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like
8 escalator-related deaths
seen videos
over 17 years. So 8 deaths over 17 years on an escalator.
That's why everyone should wear slip-on shoes.
Over 17 years?
Yeah. So it's not.
Yeah,
it's the
like
silent killer.
flip-flops and Crocs.
Oh, your shoelaces, yeah. Get caught in there.
The silent killer. The Escalator.
The Escalator. Dun, 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 dun.
How badass would it be to have an escalator in your house?
If I went that way,
constantly running.
If I ever went that way, that'd just be embarrassing. You know, if you're taken down by an escalator, if you're taken down by an escalator, it's tough. That's a tough way to go.
Oh, if you had a house and you won the lottery, Patrick, you've already spent your lottery earnings. You've told us, like you know where it's going. But if you built a big mansion, you know, I've always thought, like, why do you put an elevator in your mansion? I mean, it just seems like the time it takes to, plus the types of elevators that people put in their house, they're not like the ones you guys have there at 1211 in New York that go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They're like the super slow ones. And it's like, just walk up the stairs. Now, maybe you say, well, I'm getting old, and so I want to have an elevator for when I get old so that I can still go upstairs. But my question is, would you rather be an elevator house or would you rather be an escalator house? Like, put an escalator in.
100% an elevator. Get it with the glass sides so you can, like, see yourself going up and down. Maybe have some plants or something around there.
We talked about fear of death yesterday, and this is one of my fears, is elevators. I do not like it. I feel trapped, and I feel like they're going to fall.
You don't?
No. So that's one of my fears right there.
You ride it every day, multiple times a day.
I don't like it. I have to, but I don't like it. I wish I could work on the 3rd floor instead of the 15th, but, you know.
Like, if you compared your life to Patrick's, well, Patrick, you like, Dan rides an elevator. I would suggest that Dan rides an elevator 6 to 8 times a day.
Sure.
I bet that's a good over-under. Mm-hmm. You ride an elevator 6 to 8 times a year.
I'd take lower. I'd say under.
I would take the under on that.
Yeah, I don't go to the mall anymore.
A year? You don't go to the mall and hop on the elevator?
No.
I thought that was an elevator behind you this whole time.
I know why. Because when you go to the mall, guess what you want to do? Ride the escalator.
Yeah.
For sure. The mall's a big escalator place.
By the way, you know how dirty
it scares me.
You know how dirty the escalator handles are too, I read? It's disgusting. Like the actual railing. Do not touch those. Anyone out there, do not touch them.
All right.
Donald Trump had a statement.
Well, fire him. Fire him from the UN. And the prompter operator. That failed on President Trump, too. And the volume operator. Katie Pavlich says they turned down President Trump's volume as well. And don't take Tylenol to spite President Trump. And stop shooting people. Stop the violence. Stop. We're going to stop the show now. That's going to do it for us today. This has been another episode of Will Cain Country. We hope you will follow on Spotify and Apple. Bookmark, like on YouTube. We'll see you again next time.